The time is now 6:04 p.m. I would like to call this special public hearing meeting to order. And if you could all please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, you can just run us through a roll call.
Mayor Jen Nyjak,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Alicia Satori,
Present.
Trustee Matthew Hartzog,
Here.
Trustee Lori Kerr,
Present.
Trustee David Sherman,
Here.
and Clerk Treasurer Kelly Kilmer present.
Can I have a motion to open the public hearing? It is 6:05.
I will make that motion.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. If you, Kelly, if you could please read the proposed local law.
Village of Millerton Local Law Number A, proposed of 2022. A local law to abolish the Village of Millerton Police Department and replace with contracted services. Be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Millerton as follows. Section 1, legislative intent. It is the intent of this local law to abolish the Village of Millerton Police Department. The village has determined that entering into a shared service agreement with Dutchess County will reduce its tax levy and the attendant burden on the village taxpayers while still providing the village with professional police protection. The Board of Trustees finds that abolition of the village police department is in the public interest. Section 2, authority. This local law is adopted pursuant to New York State Village Law, Section 8-800, which expressly authorizes a village to abolish its police department. Section 3, abolition of the police department. Board of Trustees of the Village of Millerton, Dutchess County hereby abolishes its police department. All police services and functions shall be transferred by a contract for policing services with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office or any such entity with whom the village subsequently validly contracts. Section 4, severability. The provisions of this local law are severable. If any provision of this local law or the application thereof to any person, firm, corporation, or circumstance is adjudged invalid by a court of competent jurisdiction, such order or judgment shall not affect or impair the validity of the other provisions of this local law or the application thereof to other persons and circumstances. Section 5, permissive referendum, referendum on petition. This local law is subject to a referendum on petition in accordance with Village Law, Section 8-800, and the procedure set forth in Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 24. Effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the New York State Secretary of State in accordance with the Municipal Home Rule Law, Section 27-1.
So I just have, thank you all for coming. I think this is really important. It's nice to see a lot of people here. I have a quick, well, I'm not sure how quick, statement to read kind of about the process and how we're going to get through tonight. We're here tonight at this public hearing to hear your comments and questions in regards to the proposed local law A, abolishing the Millerton Police Department and replacing it with contracted service. This proposed local law is subject to permissive referendum. If this local law is adopted by the village board, a petition of registered village voters could be circulated to have the local law then be placed on the ballot for vote. This is the process before the board tonight. The issue of police services has been a conversation for over 20 years. This proposed local law will limit the village's liability from further lawsuits, upgrade the level of policing to a fully accredited police department, a fully operational substation, and additional dedicated coverage within the 0.6 square miles of the village. We will give everyone the opportunity to address the board and go in order of those that have signed up first, continuing until everyone has had a chance to comment. Each person will be asked to state their name and residency and given 3 minutes to speak. At the 3-minute mark, the village clerk will hold up her hand to let you know that your time is up. If there is still available time tonight, people may have a second opportunity to address the board. We have allotted 2 hours for this meeting. If it looks like the meeting will go past the 2-hour mark, we will continue the public hearing at 6:05 p.m. on Monday, May 2nd, here at the Annex. Tonight is an opportunity for us to hear your questions and concerns. Rather than attempt to answer every question tonight, we will take your comments and questions from tonight, compile them in a document with thorough and accurate answers. They will be available on our website as well as at the Village Hall within 2 weeks of the closing of the public hearing, if not sooner. Do we have any comments to read in?
I do have 2 comments to read in, actually. The first one is from Ed Stillman. I want to share my appreciation that we're even having this long overdue conversation. When I became a member of this community almost a decade ago, there were already long-standing concerns about how we were policed. Appropriate policing in Millerton is not an issue that has arisen in just the last few years. But while these questions have been asked all over town for well over a decade, successions of village boards have avoided, or perhaps evaded, participating, listening to, and reacting to the community's concerns. Whatever the outcome, I want to thank each and every member of this board for having the courage to recognize the need for change and for leading the conversations that may create it. Ed Stillman. And then I just received a second one by email. This is from Dave and Diane Decker to Honorable Mayor and all trustees. We support the Millerton Police and do not think they should be dissolved. I am sure there are ways to recognize, reconfigure, and make the department more community-minded. A detailed analysis between the proposal of the Sheriff's Office and the contracts with the village for the contracts with the police for the village and the town should be made completely before any decisions by the board. I can only hope this action is being considered for the betterment of the community and not for the opinions and personal beliefs of some or all of the board members. The enforcement of the local town and village codes will also need to be addressed regarding enforcement and taken into consideration along with numerous other issues such as crowded control for events, quick response times to crimes in progress and or complaints, hours of coverage, town court, review of financing, training, and many other issues. However, this should not include getting rid of the local police altogether. Respectfully yours, Dave Decker. Those are the only 2 that I've received.
Okay.
Is it okay to say something?
No, not yet.
So we're going to start with the list. If your name's on the list, I'm going to call it. If you'd like to wait, or if you don't care to speak, we'll just move on to the next one. If you haven't signed up and you still want to speak, we'll call on you after we've gotten through this one. So the first up is Kristen Panzer.
Hi.
When I first moved to Millerton 20 years ago, my kids spent a lot of time at Eddie Collins Field, and I was there with them. There were a couple of older, unsupervised kids who would come around when school let out, and when they showed up, trouble always followed. They teased the little ones and picked fights, they sassed the grown-ups and used foul language, and their parents were nowhere to be found. And so you know what I did? I called the cops. But let me explain. Where my family came from, in Boston, Jamaica Plains section, we had something called community policing. Cops were on foot or bikes. Sorry, I'm nervous. They visited the parks and the playgrounds, and they chatted with residents, and they tried to build relationships and trust. I think they tried to stop trouble before it happened. So when we moved here, I didn't know any better, and I thought all cops worked like that at the grassroots level. I thought cops were the good guys resolving conflicts and looking out for troubled kids. And it should be like that. That's been the opportunity here all along. And we just heard it for decades. I've been here 20 years. A police force responsive to the needs of the community. A police force who knows the kids, the ones who might be struggling. I called the cops to talk about what could be done. Maybe an occasional police presence after school on the playground or signage, cameras. Who knew? Well, the police went to the home and I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but I do know they gave them my name, so that was awesome. And, lesson learned, maybe not by the kids, but definitely by me, right? So, we don't have community policing. It's a shame, but we do not have community policing. We have cops with their own priorities. We have cops who've used our community for their personal hunting grounds. And we have cops who would further their own careers at the community's expense. And this has been brewing for a long time, but if you say a word about it, they paint you pro-crime. And that's why no one says anything or does anything. That and fear of retaliation, quite honestly. I'm in favor of contracting with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department. I like that they're accredited. I like that we'll have a contract that we can hold them accountable to. I like that we will no longer be at risk of exposure to lawsuits. I'm very hopeful the Sheriff's Office can read the writing on the wall, that they understand that we, the people, are sick of bully cops at any level, be it state, county, or local. We're sick of excessive force. We're sick of bad policies and union rules that keep the public in the dark and protect cops. The board has the authority to do this. We have a representative government. We elect a board to make local laws and decisions on our behalf. They don't have to put this to a referendum, and they shouldn't. They should do their jobs, continue to show leadership like they have.
Kristen, I have to stop you, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks for hearing me. Thanks for your courage.
Andrew Stamen.
Thank you. I just have a very quick question. I'm to understand there are 3 lawsuits with the village due to the police. I'm just wondering, how many lawsuits is it going to take before you people say, okay, that's enough? Is it going to take a lawsuit that banks off the village? Is it going to take a lawsuit where someone gets injured or worse? Furthermore, there's this alleged notion that the police are community-oriented. If they're community-oriented, when the village of Millerton experienced its worst tragedy, where 2 lives were lost, where were they? They weren't here. And also, on that note, a couple months ago, there was a car in front of me that was meandering in its lane. I'm not the most angelic driver, believe me, but I thought, wow, this guy, someone needs to follow him. I went straight to the village hall, and Jen was out and talking to someone. I said, well, where's the police? There's a car going up Bud Pond, out of control. No one on call. So you can't tell me that they're always here, Johnny on the spot, because they're not. And the police have had every opportunity to be community-oriented for years now. There have been complaints about the police, and nothing has been done about it. And they haven't changed their behavior at all. So it makes great sense that if I were mayor or any of you trustees, I'd have difficulty sleeping at night worrying when is the next big lawsuit going to happen. So end that worry, end that concern, and move forward with what you want to do. It makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah Middleton. We did ask.
Hi, Board. My comment tonight is not to go on either side of this debate. I think that other people will address that, and I think that there is something that can be said on both sides. I just really want to bring up something else to the board. I would like to ask the board that since this appears to be what is turning into kind of a contentious situation with members of the community, that the board has in their purview, well within their right, the opportunity to put this on the ballot. We have an election in June, less than 8 weeks away, and what I would like to ask that the board really consider letting the people vote on this. To copy from Kristen, for the people. So let the people have a vote for the people, by the people, to decide this issue. We have had a dedicated force here for well over 100 years. And while I'm hearing people with concerns, I think that everybody, for something this important, should be able to have a voice in it. And the only way everybody gets a voice in it, in the village, is for it to be on the ballot. So I respectfully request that the board consider putting it on the ballot in June.
Thank you. Delora Brooks.
I'd like to yield my time to
Okay.
someone else that may need it. Go ahead.
Rob Cooper.
I'm good for now.
Okay. Ray Nelson.
I would also like to compliment you for tackling this issue. I think it's really terrific. The first thing I would like to bring up, I forgot already my first one. Oh yeah, one of the things I like about this town is that the taxes are low. I think we're just coming out of our tax season, and I think your effort to keep our costs down are admirable. I'd like you to encourage you to keep trying to do that. That full quarter of what I make is going into taxes. Everybody, if you actually add it up, it's a lot of money. So I think it's an important issue. The liability initially, I loved having the sheriff's office here. I think they did a terrific job. They sounded really convincing. I was fully on board with the positives of bringing in the sheriff's office. I think they are going to do a great job. I think the liability, the whole idea that we would make a decision as to whether they're here or not based on the liability, I find really reprehensible. I just think that the insurance companies and the liability thing just drives way too many things. So in my opinion, as bad as the liability potential might be, I think that's really, it's a terrible way to make a decision, in my opinion. I think we got to fix that problem. That shouldn't really be the driving force. I was under the impression that our police officers were somewhat trained by the county, or they have been, trained by the county. So I don't really think that our police officers are doing a bad job. I think they're doing a great job. I think the last time the question was asked, what is the cost? And your statements are alluding to that it's going to save us money, which I'm for. But I really think you owe us, or owe the community, real specifics. We need to know exactly what is this cost going to be. Are we going to, what dollar? Are we saving this much money, and how many hours? Not just vaguely, yeah, we're going to save you money, but at what cost? What are the pros and cons? How many hours are we going to lose from coverage? You got the idea. And the last thing I'd like to say is response time. We just had Jeffrey Haynes, yes, just down the street from me, had a heart attack, and my attendant happened to be, who's a nurse, luckily was there, and, visiting him because they both walk their dogs together, so they're friendly. So if she wasn't there, he would be dead, absolutely, for sure. So she's there, he has a heart attack, has to do CPR by herself for the first 4 or 5 minutes before the police show up. The first one to show up was the village police, okay? And it's a really difficult thing. His dog is jumping all over, trying to knock her off of him. The process of doing a CPR while you're making a phone call, calling for the police is a difficult thing to do. And then anyway, so the kudos to Michael for doing a great job. Saving this guy's life, and then it took 20 minutes before the ambulance guys showed. So that says something that we.
I'm going to just quickly reply to your comment about cost. So one of the things that the board has yet to do is have that 1-hour workshop meeting in which we do discuss exactly how much money we have. I will tell you, in the 2022-2023 adopted budget, without the town's contribution, there's $92,061. So our discussion will be shortly, in the next few weeks, or 3 weeks, will be what portion of that? Do we take the salary portion of that and put that towards dedicated coverage? We will also be discussing what the sheriff's idea of a checklist would be. It's going to be, it'll be open to the public, all are welcome. Whether this is whether, regardless of which way it goes, it's a process that we have to take on simultaneously. So,
I'm sure it's not an easy one. I appreciate you for all the work you're doing. We're going to put that together for us. Thank you.
Brian Wall.
So, hello everybody. I'm kind of a new old guy. I grew up around here in the 70s, and we're away for 40 years and come back and trying to stick my nose and get in trouble. So, my wife and I, we live on Island Street. I'm familiar with the area and the history, and unfortunately too much in some ways over the years. My strong feeling is that we need to put this up to the public. Okay? Everybody, we're paying for this. This is our money, our time. We need to be able to vote to this. And I've been hearing about permissive referendum, okay, where we have to circulate a petition to get 103 votes from people so we can vote on how we spend our money. Okay, that's the rule. There's another rule that we haven't heard about. It's called referendum without petition. The board has the ability to automatically put this to a vote. They can do it tonight. Okay, and we can get it on the referendum that's coming up in the end of May. There's no additional cost. It can be done very quickly. Okay, if they don't do it that way, I'm prepared to get together a petition. The petition is already completed, ready to go. It's been approved by the town clerk. We have foiled names and addresses of everybody that can sign up, registered voters. And I would just really overall encourage the board of directors to really put this up to the vote.
I just want to make a comment.
Wait, go ahead and finish, please.
I thought you were finished.
Okay, yeah, if anybody thinks of making this up, I found this online. This is called the NICON Handbook of Village Clerks. I made some extra copies in case anybody wants to read. Clearly says right there that they can elect to put this to a vote if these are up for grabs from this interest.
So before us is this process we're in, and I know we spoke about this the other night. If the board was going to move to that process, it could not be done tonight. We could not vote on it. The proposed local law would have to be rewritten by our attorneys. We would have to hold another public hearing, and then it could go to the ballot. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, so you have the ability to do it?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Is that, okay. That's what I would encourage everybody to go along with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll be outside if anybody wants to touch me.
Mike Beer.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Beer. I'm the officer in charge here with the Millerton Police Department. I want to start off and express how disappointed that I am that we are entertaining this idea of abolishing the police department. You're making a huge decision, and it is wrong. I've been a police officer since 2009, been with the Millerton Police Department since September of 2014. I've seen this department grow, train, and become more efficient at policing. Although we do not have 450 members like the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, we are still professional, efficient at what we do. The Sheriff's Office has always been a valuable asset to us, and we have a great working relationship together. If one of our officers calls for assistance, they are willing to give us all and any of their resources. Like the sheriff said at the last meeting, if they were dedicated a deputy to the Millerton substation and they need assistance, you will get all of their resources at no additional charge. We already have that. During the police modernization this past year, we worked with the sheriff's office, other law enforcement agencies to ensure our policies and procedures were up to date. As the sheriff said, we were. The sheriff talked about how they are working on body-worn cameras for their deputies. Our officers have been equipped with body-worn cameras and in-car camera systems since April of 2019. The sheriff talked about how deputies hand out business cards with their information on it. Again, we have been doing this since September of 2019. The sheriff said they recently partnered with Lexipol for their documenting software for accreditation. Last year, we partnered with Power DMS, a similar company that offers the same services as we work towards our accreditation. In the past few months, we went over statistics. Millerton Police the past 12 months, 618 calls for service. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, 605 calls for service. And the New York State Police, 104 calls for service. Keep in mind, the Sheriff's Office and State Police are full-time agencies, and we only work 6 to 8 hours a day daily. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Office currently has a substation located in Amenia. Typically, the assigned car out of Amenia handles Zone 600. We have seen several cases where the Zone 600 car is tied up or not in the area. Let's see. As many of you know, this job is not for everyone. I'm a huge believer in public safety, and this is why I do the job, as well as many of the other men and women of the Millerton Police Department. It's not because I need to work part-time. It's not for the extra money. It's not because I need extra stress in my life. I have 3 kids at home. It's because I love my job, I love this community, I love to help people. I think this board needs to slow down and try not to push this through. Let's look at all aspects of this. The Millerton Police Department works about 45 hours a week. How many total hours a week will the Sheriff's Office be contracted for? Who pays for the phone, electric bills? I understand the Sheriff's Office will take the liability. Who pays for servicing, maintaining vehicles? When the Sheriff's asks for a new car, who's responsible to purchase? How much money are we actually going to save?
Josh Schultz.
Sure. I don't have anything prepared. I'm shooting from the hip here. Hello, everyone. Joshua Schultz, Village of Millerton resident, previous trustee with the Village of Millerton. I just have one quick question. Do you have an idea roughly of perhaps how many hours the Sheriff's Office is going to be servicing the Village of Millerton exclusively? Or is that still in the process?
That is in the process.
Oh. So I've been involved in emergency services for 20 years now actively with the Millerton Fire Company Northeast Fire District. In that time, I've been an interior firefighter, an EMR involved in EMS response, and anything you can think of. Assistant chief, I'm currently commissioner with the Northeast Fire District. In all of my years, I have done CPR a multitude of times. I have administered Narcan a multitude of times. I have arrived at people at their weakest and worst moments in their lives. The majority of those times when I have been assisted by law enforcement, it has been by the Millerton Police, who often beat me there to the scene. I have pumped chests with Millerton Police. I have delivered Narcan with the Millerton Police. And we just saw last week, I can't say the name, but we all know what was in the paper today about the CPR statement. We arrived 8 minutes after dispatch. Mike was there 4 minutes after dispatch. He was provided with an AED that we had. I understand that coverage is going to, Millerton isn't always on. The sheriffs won't always be on. But I feel that, in a sense, I feel that we have a better chance at community policing when it comes to our local department, especially when it's not just a contract. When you as a board oversee that force. You can engage with Mike and Dave and develop a set of standards for community policing as you want to see them. I think that you have a better chance to accomplish that versus contracting. In my personal experience, I've had good relations with the sheriff's office as well. Not going to say I haven't, but I've had better relations overall with the Millerton Police Department over the years. I don't know what else I want to say, but the ultimate end of this is that I understand where you're coming from. I understand the concept of liability. I understand the fiscal concerns. All that I'm going to ask, I'm going to echo Debbie's sentiment, is that you do consider putting it up for a public vote. I think that is a true litmus, considering how fundamental the Millerton Police Department is as a department within your village. It's the second biggest department in your purview, after water and highway. Such a fundamental change, I think, should be spoken to by the people. So if you get anything out of what I've said tonight, please just wholeheartedly consider putting it to a ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Redeem.
Made quite a few edits to what I was gonna present to everybody, so hopefully I can actually spit it out. I'm David Rudine. I've been here for 22 years. I think I've beaten all the residents that I've heard so far. I've heard 20 years. So I've been here for 22 years. So I just want to point out a couple of things. Like I said, I modified what I was going to speak to. I think some of it's already been covered, so I don't want to duplicate. But I want the residents of the village to understand what is really going to take place if this department is dissolved. I have a lot of experience. I started in 1987 in the sheriff's office. I've been a police officer since that time. 1987, I left the sheriff's office. Had a little overlap time, but I came here to Millerton under Chief Briggs. I will tell you, I've done these details with the sheriff's office. I worked down in Pauling, my day off, 16 hours. They had to pay me the overtime rate. It's not just an hourly rate that the contract is going to show that the village has to pay for. There's all sorts of additional things that are going to have to be paid for. And right now, you guys are asked to dissolve the police department, and you have no clue how much this is going to cost you. I'm going to tell you, this is not feasible to allow the sheriff's office to do this. It is going to be cost prohibitive, and what's going to happen if this is able to come through is you're going to have a police department maybe working 10 hours a week. And what about Memorial Day? We take probably 4 officers, that's what we usually have for Memorial Day. We put 4 officers out. This would have to be paid for as a detail for the sheriff's office. Mr. Kirkin-Prati, our sheriff, said it could be up to $85 an hour that it will cost the village residents. He said the lowest is $25. Our rate, our highest rate right now, the officer in charge, I hope he doesn't mind me divulging this, but it's public information, we get paid $23.49 an hour. That comes from dedication, and I'm going to tell you, I heard a lot about police involvement and proactive things and community policing. I've done helmet details down at the rail trail. How many people have seen the helmet details? We do lots in the community. We do car seat checks. We were planning, coming up this summer, having a couple of car seat checks because we have 3 certified officers to do this. These are the kind of things that you get with the local police department. You will not get those with the sheriff's office. So please make sure when this does go to a vote, because we'll get the signatures, it looks like that's what we're going to have to do. When this goes to a vote, I want each and every one of you to remember what they talk about liability. I have never known not $1 being paid out in a liability lawsuit. Not $1.
Nuno Ramos.
Hello everyone, my name is Nuno Ramos, and today I just wanted to ask the board to put this issue to vote and not only decide to have a police department from the Dutchess County or continue with the Millerton police, but not having a police force at all. It's the biggest budget, and we could use the money in some other departments, for example, education or health, anything like that. And the other comment I have is is that when we start talking about this issue in January back last year, due to the government, former governor, former executive board 203, it wasn't about finance, it wasn't about management, it was about hard issues between community and the police force. And one of the main issues was racism. As of right now, I haven't heard anything about how the Dutchess County, for example, will be able to help on that front. And in my opinion, having a local police as we have right now, it's the best option to have community policing. I don't think we want to be able to accomplish that with the county police. So again, just to summarize, there's a lot to talk about, and one of the biggest topics here, and that's where we started from, is racism. It's what are the procedures that the police departments have to deal with black people or any other race that is not white. Thank you.
That is the end of the people that have signed up. Okay.
I didn't sign up. I was
You
waiting.
didn't sign up. So if you'd like to come up, if you could please state your name and residence.
My name is Robin Goldstein, and I'm a resident of Millerton. And I commend you know, we're neighbors, didn't know you were going to talk. And the same thought occurs to me. We were charged with, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, to think about equitable policing, to think about fair policing. What does it mean to communities? What are our goals? Why are we doing it? We have a very diverse community, actually, in Millerton, which is not particularly represented here today. We also have issues of language, which is not represented. Any sort of election or ballot, I would say, must be in English and Spanish. Because if it's not, it is not fair representation. And it is not really asking to hear the voice of every person who lives in this village. The other thing, and I wasn't really going to talk, so I'm a little nervous. Yeah, so I guess that's the main thing. What I would like to maybe say is we could open a discussion about what are the services that we actually need. And maybe there's something to not having a police force, but having a community task force of some sort. I don't need the police to come if someone's playing loud music. I mean, it just seems over, right? So I don't know what the demographics are and what the sort of calls are that go out to the police, but I would like to know. We don't particularly, as far as I know, have a lot of violent crime, if any. I know that domestic disputes are something the police never want to get involved in. So maybe taking that money and channeling it to social services and supports would be a better use of the money. Just a thought. So thank you very much. And I do appreciate everyone's work and everyone showing up, because I think, you know, without participation, we're not going to find our way. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Blue, and I want to first say I'm really proud to be part of a community that has so many people turning out tonight to show our passion and love for this wonderful village of Millerton. I also want to say that I'm also speaking just off the cuff. I wasn't actually out of town with my children, and found out from a neighbor that this meeting was happening, so pardon me for being spontaneous, but I wanted to say that as a mom raising 2 children over the past 11 years here in the village, I personally have had nothing but positive experiences with Millerton Police. My hat's off to you for all the times that you've come, sometimes miraculously quick, and fortunately I've never had anything that turned out to be a real emergency, but there have been incidences where I've been very appreciative of your help. So have all the people on Barton and Church Street. So I just want to let you know you're very much appreciated in that part of town. Although I would like an opportunity to hear more and become more educated about the other sides and other people's opinions that I've heard speak tonight. And for that reason, I would like to say that, just sort of echo everything else that people have been saying, that it's extremely important that this be a vote for the community and for all the people of Millerton to be able to decide what we want and what we think will continue to allow us to live in the safe, wonderful community that we all love and cherish. On another note, I think that the last two speakers spoke about a task force, and Kristen commented on that as well, growing up in Boston. I think that the communities that I'm familiar with in this country that have a successful local task force work with the local police. So I'm all in favor of community members working together and volunteering to be a part of a task force. But I think it would be best if we worked with the local Millerton police to make that happen. And I'd like to ask if the Millerton police think that that's something that would be doable and productive. So thank you so much for listening. Sorry I wasn't better prepared, but and also I do think that the last two speakers who spoke about the ballots being in English and Spanish is very important in order to properly represent our community. So thank you for being brave enough to address those issues. So thank you so much, Millerton Police, for keeping my family safe all these years.
Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Jenks. I live on Leaky Hill in Millerton. The first thing I want to say is I am absolutely appalled by the amount that our police force is paid. I did not know that. I, as a 22-year-old coming out of college with a bachelor's degree, make more than that. So hats off to you guys. I don't know how you do it. And I think we should be all the more appreciative that they put their lives on the line for us for the price that we pay for them. Secondly, a lot of you have been speaking about having community police, and in my mind, it really is not clear how contracting with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office is going to improve that issue. I think no matter what side everyone on here is on, you have all brought up community police. And your best bet at that is keeping the Millerton Police Department. And secondly, there's two sides to this. We have to be welcoming to the police force for them to feel welcome in our community and want to be a part of our community. So this street goes both ways. And everyone's allowed their opinion, but my hat's off to you guys. You do a wonderful job. Again, as a young person in this community looking at starting a family, having the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office here, although I'm sure they do a great job, does not make me feel comfortable. I think, our best bet at a safe community that, works together as one is the Millerton Police Department. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make, once everybody else that hasn't been, we'll go back to you. Please.
Hello, my name is Bill Kish. I'm a Town of Northeast resident, and I've lived in this community for 50 years. So far, I think I won the contest. So I would also like to say that I have the greatest respect for our police force, for the work that they do, for the very small amount of money that they receive. But one thing that has become apparent since I've been following the process of running the police force on the Town of Northeast through the Joint Police Committee is that our police force is not really a full-time police force. It's almost a training ground for people who want to move on to jobs in other police forces like the Sheriff's Office or the State Police, it seems. And we have, I think, 8 say 8 or 9 part-time police officers here right now. Now, if you think about it, 9 police officers, that sounds like a large police force, but in reality, what it means is that each of those officers is spending very little bit of time working, and it doesn't provide the level of continuity that to me speaks to a real community police force. So that's one thing. The other thing is going to sound rough to you guys on the village board, but in attending those joint village and town police committee meetings, it really became apparent to me that there isn't a desire or really the wherewithal on the part of either community to manage the police force. And our police force, whoever it is, needs to be run by a civilian organization. They need to be responsive to a civilian organization. So that being said, unless the village and the town really want to take on the role of managing the police force and being the boss of the police force, which is the way it should be, it seems to me that the sheriff's office is perhaps a better bet, because you wind up with a dedicated 1 or 2 officers who are spending all of their time here. They probably live here in this community, and also they have more professional management. That is not to say anything, bad about the management that we have here, but if you're managing a police force for 24/7, 365 days a year, there's a lot of things that are covered that wouldn't be covered by a part-time police force. So those sorts of issues are the things that I'm concerned about, and that I don't think that a lot of people realize about our police force. So I think that as part of the process of educating the community as we go forward with this, you need to let the community understand what the structure of the police force is, who reports to who, and who manages the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Moore.
I guess basically what I would say, Bill summed up the best, and community has been a word that's come up so many times tonight that is my strongest point about this. Be it the Millerton Police or be it Dutchess County Sheriffs. One thing I do not feel is that there is a sense of community. I've been here as a business for 30 years this coming October, and I've got 42 years living in the town of Northeast. And I don't see the walk around. I don't feel the sense of educating the pedestrians, the cars, the bedlam of the weekends. I have never had one Millerton police officer come to my office and say, I am so-and-so. You see something, you hear something, say something. Everybody knows I sit on the porch, I see things, I say things, I care about things. So, yes, I feel the pressure, it should go to vote. I also understand that this village board has taken a lot of time and effort to start something that has never gotten off the ground in a very long time. So whichever way it goes, I do hope that everybody does come out and vote should it go that way. And if not, the process is going farther than anybody has ever taken the time. And a lot of people can sit at the park or they can sit wherever in their homes and talk a lot, but not when it really counts. And I give this board credit for giving everybody a voice. And you truly have, you've been totally transparent, and nobody can say they don't know. Nobody cannot move forward and not do the right thing unless they don't vote or work as a community, work in both. Should it be this Millerton Police Department? Be accountable, be transparent, and try to change. Try to have a sense of community, because I do not feel that. I work many hours, and I see many cars in what I call the town of Northeast parked, waiting. Not driving around these streets on those night houses, never during the day, which these guys can't do. They have full-time jobs, they gotta pay their bills. So they gotta work nights. It's a catch-22. The Sheriff's Department does bring a lot to the table. Thank you.
I have a question. What if I ask as a follow-up to her comment?
let's finish first going through anybody who hasn't had a chance, and then we'll go backwards.
You intend to speak. Marilyn Nichols, live here in Millerton, New York. Been on town police for many years. I remember when I was growing up. I was a local man, and it's a.
Can you speak into the microphone?
Oh, yes. So, I'm from Millerton. We have had local police for many years. All the time I was growing up, we had local police. And the duties varied back then. They would bring people home, you know, if they had too much to drink. They call little Lindsay, he'll take them home or something. That's not expected, but just a note on the past. I like the idea of having them home. When you work for the state, you get a lot of training. And if you don't do your training, you're not in. It's classes, it's physical. I imagine it, the village police would have to do the same. I've had a sheriff in the family in the past. I've been up there across the river. I've seen the state police train. And I've been in town and seen the village police on different calls. And doing CPR for 20 minutes is a long time. I know that. I respect that. But I did like the echoes of what Debbie Millbrook brought up about voting. And I think that's something probably everyone would like. And I think it's a good idea. You've started something, you've put it out to the public. And I think it'd be great to have a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Is there anyone else who hasn't had a chance to speak that would like, before we go back? You would?
I haven't had a chance to speak yet. What are we doing tonight? My name is Mike Bellavo. I'm Sergeant with the Pine Plains Police Department. It was brought to my attention a couple weeks back. I apologize about being in the dark as far as everything that goes on in your town. We have a bunch going on in Pine Plains. But it was brought to my attention that there was talk of the Millerton Police Department disbanding, possibly, and the Sheriff's Office taking over. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are as far as hours, how much coverage is going to be from the Pine Plains, or from the Millerton Police Department to what the Sheriff's Office is offering. I can only speak on behalf of what Pine Plains Police Department has, what our dealings are with the Millerton Police Department. Countless times we've had to lean on Millerton as far as being our closest backup. We've had backup as far as 25, 30 minutes, 45 minutes out during physical domestics, things that definitely call for more than one officer. Who's been there for us but Millerton? You guys have an amazing police agency. The reason I'm here tonight is because we don't look at Millerton as being a neighboring town, or Northeast being neighboring town, Millerton being a neighboring village. This is all part of our community. We pride ourselves as far as community policing and having our fellow officers' backs, meaning whether it be Millerton, whether it be Red Hook, Rhinebeck, State Police, the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, we're all one team. Where I take great pause is you're taking there's potential of taking an amazing police agency, disbanding them, and going to what, like I said, I don't know the exact numbers, but much less coverage. That becomes and I mean no disrespect by this, but I feel it's a great disservice you're doing to the town of Northeast as far as taking those police officers off the road and the village of Millerton. And speaking from an officer safety point of view, this is what we're talking about when seconds count. every police officer out here, and I believe I can speak for all of us, we're one traffic stop away from making that, punching that final time card. And so when it comes to officer safety, which is what I'm speaking from, we need everybody we can get. I mean, nobody wants this job to begin with, and the people who do want it are now being threatened with losing their jobs. Part-time or not, I don't care if you're a state trooper, if you're a Dutchess County Sheriff, if you're a city Poughkeepsie. Bad guys don't see, oh, that's part-time guy, so I'm not gonna have him pull me over. I'll just do bad things around full-time cops. We all have the same exact job, we have the same exact training. It's just that those of us who do it part-time, we had to take that extra step and make it happen around our personal lives, around our families. We've all got things, we've all got huge investments in this. And I understand it's time, but like I said, I just want to speak from an officer safety point of view and know that Pine Plains Police Department, we lean heavily upon Millerton, and we constantly listen to make sure if we can field calls out here and back your guys up the same way they back us up, that we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that hasn't had a chance to speak that would like to?
Hi, I'm Paul Choma. I don't get to vote. I'm a local business owner. I own property in Millerton, but I'm a Connecticut resident. So what concerns me is we've got an opportunity to make sure that we don't get hit the liability of lawsuit. I've had, over the years, I've had 3 interactions with Millerton police officers. 2 of them right over here, right at the stop sign here, where once, I work sometimes till midnight, and one instance, I didn't turn my signal on fast enough, not the right signal, left, to go into Cumberland Farms to get gas at midnight. Pulled over. Have you been drinking? I haven't had a drink in 40 years. I don't drink. It's not part of it. Second time, same exact thing. Each time I mentioned, the third time I was pulled over, coming from CrossFit up in Pine Plains, back to Millerton, back to work, mentioned my business 3 times in each stop. Not once did the first time I mentioned my business, what's that? That's what I got, what's that? I feel that I'm paying somebody's salary, that I'm a business owner, that I'm right in the center of town, that they should know who I am because they should be in my business. They should introduce themselves. They should ask if I, do I need anything? Whatever the case is. But I feel alienated by the police here, and that's not a comforting feeling. I have had interactions with the Dutchess County Sheriff. Once I got a call from my alarm company in the middle of the night, and the sheriff met me here, and it was a spike that triggered the alarm. So that was the first instance. Another time I found a bicycle on my property, and I called, I reported it, it was during the day, but they knew my business. When I mentioned my business, they knew my business. They knew who I was. And I don't get the sense from the Millerton Police Department that they have any idea who my business is, where it is. I worry about future lawsuits also for the town. And if we can abolish, if we can separate ourselves from lawsuits in any way, I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak that hasn't had a chance yet? Okay, so we can go, Dolores, still okay?
You know, I do have a few things I want to say.
Okay.
My name is Delora Cox. I'm on the zoning board for the village of Millerton, and I've lived in this community since 1965. And I have also worked in urban community in Westchester since the 80s. I have to say that I've had interactions with both departments, county and local, and I'm familiar with our local police department. And I think it's very important at this time, we are clearly made aware of the information that went into this decision. And as far as local policing, I think that some of the members that could be assigned to the county are people that live in this community. Excuse the other time out. When we're making a decision, I think it's important that you get all of the information. It shouldn't be secondhand. It should be you making your own informed decisions. And I found that with the situation, rumors have kind of distorted some things, and I think we have to be very careful in how we make this decision going forward. It's a difficult choice. I keep thinking finance and money, taxes we'll have to pay, the kind of service we're getting, and I still feel like I need more information. I live on a fixed income. Paying taxes is something I take pride in, but the well will run dry one day. I just can't pay anymore. And I think that we need to be emotional about this to a certain extent. We need to be fiscally sound about this. And we have a choice to make that, I think, in the condition of all departments in this country right now, the issues are the same, state, local, and county. So if we decide to make any changes, make sure you are comfortable with the information you're receiving. And questions. I have questions about money. I have questions about coverage. I don't think we've had enough information given. And the other impression I get is this board never said that you couldn't vote. It's a process that we have to do. I couldn't imagine this community saying, okay, you do what you want. That's not what's happening. So we just need to be very careful in how we make this decision. And I just want to say one more thing. People need to take responsibility in government. Come to a meeting. I know I have the time. I know we all have meetings to go to. I've been requesting that all of our meetings become taped so that you can see the government in action at your experience. So that would make a difference.
Casey?
My name is Casey Swift. I'm a Village of Millerton resident. What I've been hearing is community, 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 and I'm sorry I forgot your name. Paul. So I want to just echo what Paul said. I've lived in the village for 20 years, grew up in this area locally my whole life. And unfortunately, besides Eric Green, I don't know one of you policemen. I have 3 children in the village. My son is 20 years old. He wants to go into law enforcement. You don't know my son. I live next to the elementary school. When we first moved here, I tried to get the police officer's number to the the police office. It was not in the phone book, it was not on the internet, it was nowhere to be found, it was a secret. It was like a little cult, you couldn't get the number. And I grew up in this area and thought, I'm gonna go back to Mayberry where everybody knows. Me, my family, my kids, I'm gonna raise them here. It didn't happen like that, I know it's not Mayberry, and it's not gonna be, but I had a totally different picture of how things would be in a small town like this. And like I said, my son's going into law enforcement, I give you all the credit in the world, but there is a piece missing. And whether we definitely need to vote on it, but I think you guys have all heard the same sentiment echoed all night. It is a community piece that we're missing, and it hasn't been there. This gentleman's business isn't recognized. I'm not feeling alienated, as he said, but I am feeling like hurt that every cop in the back of the room is standing in the back of the room and not sitting here amongst us. I know you're feeling attacked and we're after you. That isn't the case. You should be sitting amongst us. I would like you to know my name. I would like you to know Paul's name. And that's not happening, and it hasn't happened in the 20 years that I've been back here. When I was a kid, Richie Howard was the sheriff, or the chief of police. He picked us up after the movies, brought us home, yelled at us, then our parents yelled at us again. I would like that to still happen, and it should happen. I'm a high school teacher. These kids need more responsibility than just their parents who aren't always around to give them support. As Kristen said, they need support, they need you guys around, and as far as I'm concerned, you guys have failed this little community. And I'm sorry to say that, but I think a lot of people are feeling that tonight. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that hasn't spoke that would like to speak? Here.
My name's Carol Andrews. I live in the village of Millerton. I've been here for 41 years. I have pretty much been very fond of the Millerton Police Department throughout all the years. Everybody's speaking of this community thing. It goes both ways. It's my understanding that as a mayor, you relegate hours and stuff like that to the Millerton Police Department. Am I correct in that? Before I go further?
Not exactly.
But
The board did discuss hours that should be based on, in the past, based on issues and complaints that we've had. We discussed it.
okay, so we're talking about having the sheriff's office come in. We're not certain about the hours and everything like that. You have a police department where you can give them the hours. You can hire the people to do the hours. You're not paying $85 an hour, obviously. And again, these people are coming, they're giving up their time, their lives are at risk for any one of us at any given time. You talk about, like, you don't see them here, you don't see them there. Well, why? I mean, we do have a bike course, the last time I knew. Like, there are people that do the rail trail. They were told to walk a beat, and then all of a sudden they're told not to walk a beat. I do have experience from, a known police officer who was my ex. Hours have been cut. Do people know that the hours have been cut? There used to be 2 shifts on Saturdays and Sundays, Friday nights and Saturdays. They're down to 1, they work 5 to 11. What's that gonna do? I have so many things, it's just, okay. It's unreal to think about losing our police department. You wanna make it a community policing, get them involved, allow them to be involved. I don't know your business, I've lived here for 41 years. I don't know half the businesses in this town. I avoid it, because this community is not what it used to be. You expect them to come to your house, your businesses, to know who you are. How about you introduce yourself? Like I said, it goes both ways. It's not just on the Millerton Fire or Police Department. It goes both ways. Like I said, I don't know half of the businesses in town. I just went to 2 new ones. You have to work with them instead of against them. And I definitely agree with everybody. It should be put to a vote. Definitely should be put to a vote. And we should have all the information. We should have what you want for hours, what we're gonna be paying for them, where they're gonna be doing everything out of. All that information, we have nothing. Nothing. When I watched the meeting, it was a joke to me. We had nothing. There was no information given to us.
I just want to make one quick clarification. We have asked for officers to be on during the weekends, during the days. We have asked. They don't do it.
Is that part of?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna disagree with that. Because,
Hold on, before we get too crazy.
Yeah.
Anybody, if you wanna speak, come up to the podium and speak, and I'm just asking so that this doesn't get out of control.
no problem,
Thank you.
I'm gonna disagree with that. First of all, most people, well, I might not know me, I am a troublemaker. So I don't like cops. Bottom line, Millerton Police Force, been nothing but good to me. And you're gonna talk about, you have asked, and they said, no. I know a lot of them. And I asked, why do you want them? Because they won't give us the hours. So I find that to be BS.
That is not, I'm sorry, I have to speak. That is not true. We have not cut their hours. We actually added hours because we wanted daytime on Saturdays, and they were gonna do a nighttime shift as well. So we didn't cut any hours. We asked them to shift some hours for a little while.
I could
and
understand that too.
To see how that would go.
But now, if they got a regular job, because, I mean, for God's sakes, who's gonna live on their salary?
That's what
I
we're
mean,
saying, is that we.
they gotta have another job, so they can't really switch all that
But they might
much.
not be able to do the hours that we've asked, but we
I think it'd be better.
we have never cut their hours.
I think it'd be better to improve your pay. This way, you might get somebody to be here full-time, not part-time. Everybody's crying about they don't see the police. I see them all the time. All the time. When they're on duty, I see them all the time. I don't know you, you don't mean, I'm with her. I don't know you. I don't know your business. Getting a little old there, you're pushing out. That's right. But regardless of the issue, I don't know half these people in this room. You all are from Millerton. I've been here over 30 years. I don't know 90% of the people in this room. So you worried about these guys not knowing a couple of people? I mean, come on, for God's sakes, people, give them a break. Like I said, I do not like cops that much. I've always been in trouble. I probably always will be. Everybody knows I got a loud mouth and I love to argue. Ask Mr. Rudine. He pulled me over a number of times, he knows. And I got nothing but respect for him. I think they do a great job, and I really don't even know why we're even here at this meeting doing this. This should never be brought up. You've got to do their homework. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Rob Cooper.
My name's Rob Cooper. I've been part of this community since 1960. I know I'm a lot older than I look. I know you're all thinking the same thing. I was a village trustee here. I've served at least 8 years on the village board. The biggest thing here is the liability. We've been very lucky so far that nothing major has happened. And I heard mention that there has been some lawsuits, and I'm sure you can't divulge the information about anything that's happened, which makes it not fair to go to a referendum unless somebody knows both sides, and I don't think that can happen. So I just want everybody to think about that.
I can comment to that,
Okay.
because it is public knowledge.
Okay.
There have been 3. 2 are still pending litigation.
Mhm.
1 is closed. There were 3 of them. 1 was failure to investigate, 1 was a breach of duty, and 1 was a false arrest. And that is all we can say at this point. But that is all public information.
Okay. So the liability, I just wanted to stress that. That's the biggest part of this. When I was a village trustee, I thought the same thing. We're so lucky that nothing major happens. And in the sheriff's department, if you contract with them, it just takes away all that responsibility. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to give my time to the officer whose time was cut short.
He will have a chance to speak. It's still only 7:19. I promise I will get back to him.
Okay. In any case. I'll be quick. My name is Maribel, and I'm glad that we are all here. I'm very proud to be a Millerton resident. I'm Hispanic, and I do feel the love. I don't feel the racism. I appreciate your presence, their presence, and if you are not here, who is going to guarantee me, or Mr. Ramos left, that is, I'm going to be safe if you dissolve the police department? How are we? He mentioned that he wanted completely dissolved. Who's going to save me from anybody or anything? Who's going to rescue me from myself? It's ridiculous. And that is all I want to say. I support the police department. And I thank you for every effort, every single night, every single day, every single hour. I appreciate the comment from the gentleman troublemaker. It was I appreciate that. It's so great to be in a country where our opinion counts and our vote as well. That is the most important one. We vote and let it count. And I'm Hispanic, and I do feel the love. I don't feel the racism, I feel their support. So you have mine as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone left before we go back to the top?
Sorry.
That's okay.
How you guys doing? My name is Joe Cruz. What I do for a living is not important. I just want to say, I've lived in the town of Northeast for 20 years now. I grew up in Hopewell Junction. I understand the villages look at liability, money. I understand all that, especially nowadays. Times are not easy. One thing I've learned in this room tonight, and I kind of came here tonight to kind of educate myself a little bit. I work pretty closely with all these guys in the back of the room. I can honestly say I have never had a bad experience. One of the things that seems to be echoing tonight is a lack of community involvement. I can say from a part-time officer's point of view, that's probably got to be a little difficult. Pretty much anybody that knows me know what I do. I spend a lot of time in town. I consider myself pretty involved in the community. Maybe one thing, hopefully this does go to a vote, and it sounds like it's going to, and that's good. I feel good about that. Maybe one thing they could work on if this all gets settled out and the dust settles, maybe that's something that I'm sure Officer Veeder would not have an issue with, that is working on community involvement. Just in defense of those guys, as a part-time officer, that has to be tough. I know when I was on patrol up here, I guess I gave it away. When I was on patrol up here, I spent a lot of time in town. I took it to heart because I lived here. From a part-time guy's point of view, that's got to be tough. I'm not going to bore anybody with any details. I feel good when I see that black and white car drive by my house. And yeah, there's a blue and gold one in my driveway. So, but it doesn't matter. I feel good when these guys go by. I'm happy for it. I hope everybody, if there are differences between the town, the village, the residents, and the PD, that they can work them out and maybe make it so it benefits everybody. I'm done. Thanks.
Anyone else? Officer Beater, do you want to come back up?
All right, as far as community policing goes, we do want to do more of it. We have officers that are car seat technicians, bike patrols. It's very difficult as a part-time department. A few months back, we were denied officers. We are short officers. We were denied by the board when we asked to hire new officers and send them to the academy. So if we can get more officers, we can definitely work on that. So back to what I was saying before, I think we need to look at a draft contract where hours are laid out, you know, how many hours a day, how many hours a week, how many hours a month, whatever the case may be, and let people know. Let's be transparent and do that. Some people have already made their decision and have for quite some time now. The mayor and the supervisor went to the sheriff's office prior to her being voted in last year in the summer. August 11, 2019 at 22:55 hours, myself, members of the New York State Police, Dutchess County Sheriff's Office responded to a call. Upon arrival, we were met by the mayor, hosting an illegal underage party where kids were consuming alcohol and smoking marijuana. That night, we thought it would be best to exercise officer discretion and shut the party down with no arrest being made. September 29, 2020, at 20:45 hours, the Millerton Police Department arrests a member of the mayor for aggravated DWI. November 2017, routine patrol stops the mayor where she had a suspended driver's license. The officer utilized his officer discretion. The vehicle was not towed. No arrests were made. Instead of taking responsibility for their actions, the police are always blamed. With these incidents, I feel like this is retaliation, a biased opinion, and a conflict of interest of abolishing the police department. I think it would be best if this was all brought to a vote.
I'm not going to go to the podium, but I just can't believe what I just heard.
Yeah.
That was the most disqualifying set of statements that I could possibly imagine for somebody to hold your post. You should resign immediately.
Yeah, you're better off.
Hold on.
All right, okay.
I gosh, I
Wait a second. Sorry, John, I'm gonna interrupt. That's okay. I have to say, everybody, just take a deep breath for a second.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath. Then, if there's anybody else.
There's going to be a fight out
We have an
there.
officer here that's on duty. So.
What? Okay, all right,
Everybody take a
okay.
breath.
Okay. Hey,
So,
we could just maybe
I'm
close
gonna go
the door.
Keep going, I got it.
Oh, boy.
So I feel like I need to say something first. As the mayor, and according to New York State law, I am the chief of police. The one thing that bothers me the most is the lack of respect, communication, and accountability of our department. And I really think that was witness of what is actually going on. That is all I have to say. Andrew.
Along those lines, Officer Beater's doing all our work for us. We've been talking about community policing. What does that really mean? Well, one thing it means is, okay, if there, and I've heard that's difficult to do. If you're part-time, it's difficult to be a part of the community. During the Black Lives Matter protest, that was a perfect opportunity for the Millerton Police Department to be a part of the community. And when I drove by the Village Hall, I saw them standing with all their full bulletproof regalia in the parking lot, ready to go on a moment's notice if there was a problem. Instead of putting a cruiser right on the green and saying, hey, we're here to talk to us, we want to be a part of this. They chose not to. And when Peter got wind that he wanted to dissolve the police department, he had two choices. Either A, foment an adversarial relationship with my boss, or B, say, hey, wait a minute, we have a problem here. Let me talk to the mayor to see if I can build a bridge. He chose to foment an adversarial relationship with his boss. If I did that, I'd get fired. That's called getting fired. So he had two choices, and he always chooses the adversarial, aggressive approach. He always chooses to disrespect the community and the mayor. And that's telling, that's the tell. That's the only reason why we're here. If in fact they chose to truly be community oriented, okay, I gotta build a relationship with the mayor, I gotta do all these things and work together, we wouldn't be here. This wouldn't even be an issue, this wouldn't even be a discussion. Because the mayor would be happy, everybody would be happy that, and if anyone did complain to the mayor, she'd say, you know what, they're really working hard to be a part of the community. But that's never happened in years, and that's the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a son who's a police officer, and I've done some ride-alongs with him. It is an incredibly difficult job. I think that anybody who has a problem with a police officer has to look at themselves and say, you know, this is another human being who has to go home to his family at night, and it is not an easy job. My kudos to police officers. It's just ridiculous. Our entire country has this Black Lives Matter. Please don't even get me started. We have got to turn the corner here and start, you know, supporting our police officers, not seeing this us and them. That's an us and them organization. You know, that they weren't running up to them, you know, whatever. I'm going to go down that road. I think that I would agree. I think that was a little way maybe over the top, bringing up personal stuff about the mayor. I think that I think maybe the conversation is not. Maybe it's a little healthy that it comes up because we all want to know that this decision that we're making is not a personal vendetta between two people in the we don't have this, we're not disbanding our police officers because there's some infighting going on. If he is in fact being lenient and then feels like he's being persecuted, I think that's part of the conversation that should come up maybe, it's part of the conversation. It should be part of our understanding of what's going on. So, I don't know any of the details, I don't really want to know the details, but I do think that we need to make very careful decisions on how we do our police selection. And I think we need to really look at the human factor here. You're asking a police officer who's part-time to know everybody in the community? That's ridiculous. I've been in here for 22 years, and I don't know everybody in the community. I'm constantly going, you know, oh, wow, there's a new business that's been here for 2 years I found. I didn't even know that. You know, it's like ridiculous. I live in my little hovel and don't know what's going on. So I just encourage us to, if you don't feel like you know your police officer, stop and talk to them. I mean, that's, you know, it does come back to us. We have to, all of America, it comes back to we're voting, we get to vote, we have to be involved in our community. If we don't feel like we're, you know, we don't have enough contact with them, go contact them, you know, it's crazy, man. Expecting somebody else to come to us is a little bit over the top. But anyway, I appreciate the board, I appreciate the mayor, and I appreciate our police officers, and I definitely think everybody needs to really, really understand it is a very difficult job.
Just real quickly, it is a very difficult job. It's a job that requires some sophistication and restraint. If you don't have that sufficient sophistication and restraint, you shouldn't be doing the job.
Sophisticated.
Who's not sophisticated? Dave?
3 minutes was awful short. I won't bore you too long. I will try my very best. There were just a couple things that I wanted to add. It has been said, brought up at board meetings, that the sheriff's office will provide 24-hour coverage. That is absolutely not true. They have an office in Amenia. They'll have a station up here, which they can come in, they can use the bathroom, everything, if they were to get a detail. However, you have to remember, if they make an arrest, they've got to go down to Amenia, because all of the sheriff's office arrests are done using a machine called LiveScan. LiveScan is not available up here. There's not room enough right now, the way it's laid out, to do that. So I just want people to be aware of that for the few hours and the very extraordinary money that you may be spending on a deputy sheriff that's being paid time and a half at their rate, it's not comparable to what the Millerton police is getting paid. They have an agreement, a contractual agreement. They're a union shop, and I was part of that union, so I do know how it works. But you're not going to get the same police officers day after day after day like you have here. And again, I'm not saying that we've had perfect officers in the 22 years that I've been here. I've had to have a couple resign because they just didn't work out. These are the things that the board is not even always aware of. We have issues, we have body cameras now. If somebody goes over that edge that they shouldn't be stepping on, the chief, Officer Dieter, and myself, we review things and we make those hard decisions. Nobody wants to say to somebody, you need to leave, but we've had to do that. So moving on from there, I just want to give my email address to anybody. I'm the statistics guy, and please write this down, drudin.millertonpolice@gmail.com. I do have a full-time job that I work during the daytime, but I will be happy and I will get back to you as quickly as possible if you have any questions about statistics, what we do as a police department, any of that stuff that I can legally give to you. And it's all public information, but I will be happy to return any response if you get in touch with me via email. drudin.millertonpolice@gmail.com. Please make the right decision, and we're going to be coming around to see you guys to get your signatures on the petition. I want to see this come to a vote too. 22 years I've been here, sure, even 22 years ago, they were talking about dissolving the police department. Thankfully, we're still around. I think it's a huge disservice if the final vote is to get rid of this department.
For being around.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we love our community, and we definitely need to work on some things. We need to get more officers, and I think by doing that, we can move forward and we can satisfy a lot of these complaints that we're hearing. And there are some complaints that need to be addressed, no question about that. Anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Anyone else?
Yeah, my question I had earlier.
No, it's okay, we're just videotaping it, so.
So,
15 minutes.
my question was, who is responsible for interacting with the police department? Who gives them marching orders? I want you to walk down the street and shake hands. I get a lot of complaints, but who's in charge? Is there a committee, a neutral committee says we want you guys to do this, this, and this, or you're the cops, do cop stuff, okay, and protect the people at home? There's a real communication problem, clearly. And I don't know, whose responsibility? Do you give?
By New York State law.
I truly don't.
Right. That is actually the case, right? It kind of seems crazy that I'm actually considered the chief of police as a civilian. But as the mayor, that's the way they do it in the United States. So coming into this, and I will be very brief about that, and that is all I'll say. We have discussed it on the board, hours, we've discussed different things that we wanted to do. We've tried our best to communicate. We pretty much let them kind of do, I'm not a police officer, so we let them do their policing. But we've asked, and we've tried to communicate.
So there's gotta be some kind of, I mean, who's responsible? I mean, I still understand it. If
Ultimately-
you're the boss,
Yes.
you say, you know, Officer Rudin, I want you walking a beat on the tag.
Correct.
I want you to shake hands.
Correct.
And if you don't do it, there's gonna
In
be
fairness,
repercussions
in
for it.
fairness to
Correct.
this board and previous boards, they have gotten us out, and I do know where the framing shop is, by the way. He's our resident business, or our business person.
I didn't know.
But the fact is, I've been around on foot monitoring that business and everything else. I've seen him working there at night. I don't go in and interrupt him. He's doing very laborious work, so. But point being, the board has encouraged us, and Debbie Middlebrook, our former mayor, has said continuously, please go out and shake the doors. And we've had all sorts of open doors. We've come across those. People don't usually see us because pretty much by the time that we're going around and shaking the doors, most of the businesses are already closed. That's in the evening. But the board has involved themselves. Could it be better? Could they remind Officer Veeder at the board meetings to remember that we need to have these doors shaken and, you know, be observant? We've done crosswalk details and everything else at the board's request, you know, in front of the movie theater. So there has been some involvement. I think there could be more with any police work, whether it be the sheriff's office or whether it be the Millerton Police Department. Guys have short memories and they want to go out and have fun sometimes. They don't want to do those shaking of the doors. But again, in fairness to the board, they have tried to push us towards that direction, as much community policing as we can do. But again, we have had limited hours and we need to hire more people. That's
I can see how it would be a balance. I mean, I think I like the idea. I mean, I like the idea of interacting with you. A couple of weeks ago, we heard that somebody might be afraid to have their children exposed to the police. You know, it was going to create some kind of panic.
I don't mean to stop the back and forth between you two. That certainly is a conversation the two of you could have outside. But if you have any more questions or comments in your 3 minutes for the board, if you.
Let me think about
Okay.
it. I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
I'm sure. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark. It is 7:41. I'm going to ask if there's anyone else that has anything to say. And if not, I would entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
Actually, Josh.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's right. I put my hand up after.
Sorry.
Everyone obviously here tonight is passionate about the subject. That's why we're here. The one thing that I just want to remind everybody, whether you're in this room, out on the street, or on social media, being civil is the way that conversations are propelled, and there was some uncivility here tonight, which I apologize for. I want to thank you guys for having to endure that and the work that you've done so far. But yeah, just be mindful, everybody, that these are people, your people, we're people, we're all in a community. Let's treat each other, everybody with respect, and not necessarily go for the throat. So, that's, yeah. That's all I'm saying, just be kind.
About the uncivility, that's the problem, that's what Officer Veeder did, he was one who created all this.
That's what I was speaking
Yeah, so that's the reason why we're here.
It's public knowledge.
Stop this.
I'd like to say something, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What's that?
Kelly,
Oh, I'm gonna keep the 3 minutes. 2 seconds.
Somebody hit the timer.
For those who don't know me, I sit up here, I am Kelly Kelmer, I am the village clerk and treasurer. I have been with this village for 46 years as a resident and 4 years as
working with some very fabulous people on this board. Josh, Debbie Middlebrook, Lance, and there were all of you guys up here. And I thank you for everybody that's doing what they're doing. What I wanted to say is I'm staying very neutral on this subject because I do have a job to do as the village clerk, and I will give everybody the facts that they need. But I would like to say thank you for everybody coming out here tonight, because whether you believe or don't believe on what is happening here, it is an issue that needs to be addressed, and it should be, this is a good forum for it to be addressed. So I would like to thank everybody for coming out here. The one thing that I would like to say, sorry Carolee if you get mad at me, I think social media is a bad platform for this, okay? That is just me. I'm a big social media person, but this is something where you need the facts. All of these board members have email addresses. As Dave had pointed out, he has an email address. I have an email address. Go to our website. I have posted everything from the Sheriff's Department to the radio interview that both Matt, Alicia, and Jen did. And this also is being recorded and will be put out on our website for everybody to see. It will go out on social media too, because we do have some Facebook followers through the Village of Millerton, so people will have it that way also. But I understand, everybody, this is a very contentious situation, and I understand that people get angry, troublemakers happen. But everybody, we have to get along. This doesn't get decided by everybody fighting amongst each other. We have to get along and we have to do what's right for the village. So whatever side you're on, if it goes to a vote, you'll have your right to vote. If it goes with the permissive referendum, you'll have your right to sign the petition. Just everybody remember, everybody still has a choice. So don't beat everybody up about it, okay? Don't beat up the board, don't beat up the civilians, don't beat up the police department. We're all here for one goal, okay? Thank you.
Still have 40 seconds left.
Just a quick conclusion, as a dear friend would have said many times and would still say it today, if we are not part of the solution, we are part of the problem.
With that, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at 7:46 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Oh, geez.
Oh, that's my timer.
That was your timer. Okay, so it looks like we have a few things to do. We're gonna try to get a meeting on the books at some point over the next 2 weeks. If not, after that.
Only because you guys are still in a meeting and
Jen, what's the timeline for the next?
Okay, can I ask everybody, hold on 1 second. The meeting is still taking place, so if you would like to leave because the public hearing is closed, they are still in a meeting, and a public meeting. So if you're gonna leave, please do it quietly, because they still have business to attend to, and we have to be able to hear it. I have to be able to document it, so, thank you.
My question is, when is the next deadline, or when we can start circulating?
You will not have to circulate a petition until after the village board adopts the separate law. We obviously are not doing that tonight. We have to have more discussion. Our next scheduled meeting at this point is May 2nd. We will have that at the village hall. It is a regular workshop meeting which comes with committee reports, board reports, and any potential new business. You know, if time allows, we would like to have a brief conversation. No decision will be made at that meeting either. The board still needs to get together and figure out a date where we can have another workshop meeting, regardless of which way we go and regardless of how this works out. I think it benefits the board to start working on a checklist. whether it's Dutchess County Sheriff or whether it's our own Millerton Police Department. I think it gives the board an idea of what we truly need and what we truly want and what we truly think we need for the police department, no matter who it is. And then also talk about the actual money part. We haven't had that discussion yet, so it's not that we're trying to not be transparent about it. I gave a couple numbers earlier about that. I can repeat them. I mean, you have it in the adopted budget, I believe, but that's a discussion that we have to have, and we have to have it publicly. And so this is all step in the process. Yes, sir.
We've almost finished the budget process. We have to know how much money, we have now finished.
We're done,
Okay.
we're done, the budget is
Okay.
adopted.
So we just did that the other night. We don't know, we have to figure out how much money we can spend before we can have the conversation about where is this going, and how much money is going this way, how much is going that way.
And people have to remember that we're talking about hours for the village, just the village. We're not talking about all the hours for the town. That's another issue, if it gets to that point. See, we're talking about 0.6 square miles of patrol. So you cannot compare what we have now to what that would cost with the sheriffs, because that's not what we're doing. Because we split this, sort of, with the town. So we're talking about our budget only, for the village only, not for patrols for the town. The town will have to do their own, contract with the sheriffs. We are talking about the village.
Or we'll have to renew their contract with us.
Right, so
Right?
there's
No
other
matter how that
things.
goes, there's three like parallel projects going on as far as this is concerned. Us having that conversation about hours, time, money, checklist. The town and us, our contract will expire May 31st. We have to figure that piece out. And then the whole piece together.
So it's hard when you're comparing money and talking about what it's gonna cost with the sheriffs. Those aren't correct numbers that you have. I mean, you're talking about apples to apples with what we have now going to the sheriffs, but that is not what's gonna happen. Because we're just talking about the village going with the sheriffs, if we go with the sheriffs.
Quick question. They were paying, what, 20% now? 23%? So wouldn't they just kind of get like 23% of the service?
No,
Why not?
because it doesn't work that way with the sheriffs.
No, not the
With,
sheriff.
it
I'm
does
talking
not,
about-
it, no,
No,
because
not
it
the
doesn't
sheriff. I
work.
mean,
Oh,
With
with
the
us,
town,
yeah, it doesn't work that way. Because we let the police decide where they want to patrol. We don't tell them. I mean, we might say, we want a Saturday in the village, but at night, we don't say, you need to be in the village for an hour and you need to be in the town for 3 hours. Like, we let them do their job and we don't tell them where to go. They do their thing.
I was just wondering why.
It's a good question, though.
It wouldn't weigh more toward the village. I mean, the town is buying a service from the village, right?
It's a discussion, it's another discussion we're gonna have.
I mean,
We are virtually a newish board. I mean, in different positions, to be honest with you. The police contract is expiring now. I remember 2 years ago when I was a trustee, the police contract was up for renewal. So these are all processes we're going through. It's not that we haven't learned from past processes, but this is all new for us. There's a new police committee, which there wasn't before. So those are things that would have to come up within the contract with the town of Northeast. Because you pay 23%, do we want you to spend 80% of your time in the village? Or, I mean, the village is part of the town and we kind of all are one.
Right,
But
we didn't tell them. We let them decide. They're the ones on patrol. We're not trying to micromanage.
Just to add to what Jen is saying, in previous times when the contract with the town was negotiated, they would outline what streets or roads they would like to have tolled and how often. So that's all laid out in the contract. It wasn't necessarily exactly, we spend 20% of our time here and 80% here. Because under not the current town supervisor, but under a previous town supervisor, he wanted to relinquish some of the time typically spent in the town to have more patrols in the village because he thought Main Street was really important to have that covered. So that's all will take place with this new town board and with this town supervisor on what they want to see for their money that they put into it.
Correct.
It's always reviews.
I'm just curious, because now I'm getting a little more confused. Since we are a megatropolis, Millerton, and the town of Northeast, if we put this together under one umbrella, is it considered a shared service?
Yes.
Okay. It's gonna save you money? No.
We can't
Shared with it.
We cannot get grants for shared services for the police department. We've asked that question. I mean, that was one of the things, like, if we do this, can we get grants to do this? And that they said, no, that you can't do it for that kind
You
of.
can get it for, I don't know, things, not necessarily for, you can get it for equipment as a shared service, a building as a shared service, but not for the actual services. That makes sense.
I know you have spoken about liability. My question is, if they use our office, I'm saying our, yeah, our office.
Well, it is the public's office.
Yes, our car. If something happens with them, we are not gonna be liable for it?
With the
At
sheriff's
all.
department.
If the
Exactly.
sheriff is using.
If they using that, say I'm crossing the street because I'm up over here, and they hit me, and I'm gonna sue the Millerton Police Department because the car belongs to Millerton.
Currently, under the current way it would work, yes. If we were contracting with the sheriff's department, no. The Dutchess County Sheriff's Department would indemnify the municipality that they contract with, which means if something happened, you would be able to sue the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department. Currently, the way it stands, if God forbid something happened, right, in the town of Northeast, the village of Millerton is still liable.
Not the town.
Not the town.
Not the town. They pay their 20,000 or whatever.
Okay. I think at this point, we're all getting, I'm getting a little talked out. It is 7:56, and I think there'll be more opportunities for more conversations.
I would like to make a motion to dismiss this meeting at 7:56 PM.
Is there a second?
I will.
Matt, all those in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Do I hit stop?
Hit stop, please.
I did before, thank you very much.